Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. We're going to do Time Capsule Episode 3, my favorite albums that were released 50 years ago, back in 1972. Another amazing year, a banner year in the history of rock and roll. According to my database, I own 103 albums that came out in 1972, and here's the kicker. I really love all of them. I mean, there's not a album in there that's not less than great. But what I tried to do is filter it down. I filtered it down to my top 35. I figured that video would be too long. So I'm just going to do the top 10 and then I'll quickly show you at the end the runner up. So let's start. Top favorite albums for me from 1972. This is based on the amount of times I played them. The best judge. If you love an album, you play it. And these are the 10 most played albums that I got that were released in 72. At number 10, Peter Frampton's debut solo album, sorry for the glare, called Wind of Change. This is the original vinyl of it. And he had left Humble Pie at their peak with Rockin' the Fillmore, went solo, and he released this album. And this is still, I think, his best solo record. It's very acoustic. It's very mellow, which is kind of why he wanted to leave Humble Pie. I mean, the songs are amazing. Fig Tree Bay is the opener, one of my all-time favorite deep tracks from him. The title track, Lady Lyrite, these are all acoustic-based songs. He does an incredible cover of Jumpin' Jack Flash, nothing like the Stones version. It's a plain shame, it's a classic. Oh, for Another Day, All I Want to Be Is By Your Side, you know that. The Larger, Hard, beautiful, melodic songs. A phenomenal debut album from Peter Frampton, my number 10 from 1972. Number 9, the debut album of Steely Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill. Interesting Steely Dan album. I love this album. It was a big hit. And they were kind of like a band at that time. This guy there's David Palmer on vocals and Skunk Baxter on guitar. So it was more than just Walter Becker and Donald Fagen. Of course, they're still the leaders then. But it was more of a band. And what an album this is. I love the diversity of the vocals, different vocalists. I mean, Do It Again is a classic. Dirty Work, completely different vocal style, different vocalist. Midnight Cruiser, only a fool would say that. Reeling in Their Years, you know that. Changing It a Guard. This is an amazing record. The debut of from Steely Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill, number 9 from 72. Number 8, well, for me, this is a special record because this was the first album that I ever got by the Kinks. And I had it on 8-track. I talk about this album a lot in my Kinks video. You can check that out where I talk about the Kinks discography. This, for me, is just a special record. On vinyl, it was the first side was it was studio, and the second album was live. And I had it on 8-track, which mixed it up, which was a really different kind of a listen. It's really not one of the Kinks' best albums, but for me, it's super special. But it's got some amazing tracks. Celluloid Heroes, one of my favorite songs of all time. Sitting in My Hotel is amazing. Motorway. It's just a really fun album. The live album is the Kinks at that time, kind of a sloppy band, but still really good. Everybody's in Showbiz. I have a whole bunch of different versions of it, but my number 8 album from 72. Number 7, classic from Neil Young, Harvest, an all-time classic album. What can you say? It's just a masterpiece. I love when Neil does like this kind of country acoustic kind of a stuff. Everybody knows Heart of Gold, but A Man Needs a Maid with all the orchestration. Old Man, There's a World with the orchestration. And then he rocks out on like Words, Alabama. Phenomenal record. Number 7. Number 6 is this album. I love this album, and I love the way they titled it. It's a concert for Bangladesh, George Harrison and Friends. This is an amazing live record. I've played it continuously since 72, and it's the Friends part. It's just a great concert. Harrison sounds great on it with Wah Wah and My Sweet Lord and Waiting on You All, but you get Billy Preston with That's the Way God Planned It. Ringo does Don't Come Easy. And of course, on disc 2, on this version, you get an amazing performance by Bob Dylan. And then you get a nice bonus track on this version with Love Minus Zero. So a great live record from George Harrison and Friends, the concert for Bangladesh. Let's keep going. The next one, largely considered one of the greatest progressive rock albums of all time. I did a video, you can check it out, on greatest runs of all time. Yes, around this time period. No doubt, Close to the Edge, an amazing album. A perfect progressive rock album. So only got 3 songs on it, but Close to the Edge, the album length song, is spot on perfect, and that's not easy to do on an album length, on a whole side of an album. And you and I, you go to heaven when you hear that song. It's just incredible. And Cyprian Couture, a great rock and Yes track. A perfect progressive album by Yes. Let's keep going. What am I up to? Number 4. This is a really special album for me. I have a bunch of different versions of it. This is Wishbone Ash, and this is Wishbone Ash's 3rd album called Argus. Across the pond in England, this is an undisputed classic album. It was a huge hit for the band. Kind of broke them a little bit in America as well. Wishbone Ash, one of my favorite bands. This is a true lost classic in America. This is a masterpiece of an album. Every song on it is great. It's a damn near perfect record. I have played this album a lot. Time Was, Sometime World, Blowin' Free, which is probably their most famous song in America, and one of my least favorite Wishbone Ash songs, funny enough. But side 2, which is amazing. The King Will Come, Leaf and Stream, Warrior, and Throw Down the Sword. This version's got an extra live record. There's a lot of different versions of this album. If you never heard Wishbone Ash, this is a good place to start. The one you want to hear is this version. This is the, 30th anniversary edition. Martin Turner, the original bass player in the band, went back and remixed this album, and he did a wonderful job. This is a better version of the album. It's remixed and remastered, and in my ears, it sounds a little bit sped up, which is good. Of course, a lot of these songs are their greatest songs ever, but they're better on the live record, live dates. On this version of the album, they have a little bit more pep to it. So give it a chance. Check out Wishbone Ash, Argus, The King Will Come, Leaf and Stream, Warrior, Throw Down the Sword, amazing. Time Was, Sometime World, Blowin' Free, it's great. This is what the original album looked like. There's a framed version of it signed by the band, because I love this band. And this is pretty cool. This is an original ad back from when August was released, signed by the band. And it's congratulating them because Melody Maker, really famous British publication, voted August the best album of the year by anybody. Better than the Stones album, Bowie. That was their choice. This is seriously a great album. So, pretty cool. Let's keep going. We're going now to my top 3 from 1972. At number 3, David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust, and the Spiders from Mars. This is, pound for pound, song for song, doesn't get any better than this album for Bowie. I mean, look at that track listing. It flows so well. It's just an amazing, amazing album that I still play all the time. And there's a lot of versions out there. This is a version that came out on Ryko with a bunch of bonus tracks, and there's a mini box set version of it. But this, if you don't know David Bowie, this is a great entry point because this album's just killer from start to end. Number 2 for me, my second favorite album of the year. Well, I have another fun video where I talk about my love and hate relationship with Genesis. I was one of the world's biggest Genesis fans in the early part because I kind of discovered them before they were even known in America, and I talk about that in my video. But this album, this is a first pressing of Genesis Foxtrot that came out in 72, and this is a first pressing of it. Look at that artwork. Look at that artwork, God. But this is my favorite Genesis album for sure. I played it more than anything, and what can you say? Supper's Ready, the whole, the second side of the album with Horizons as the opening instrumental is just a masterpiece. And then you got Watch Over the Skies and Get 'Em Out by Friday, and 2 lost classics, Timetable and Can Utility and the Coastliners, which Steve Hackett still plays, which is like a mini version of Supper's Ready. If you like progressive rock, this is as good as it gets. This is Genesis Foxtrot, my number 2 favorite album from 1972. And my number one, well, you can kind of guess. There's the shirt. Big Rolling Stones fan, and doesn't get much better than Exile on Main Street. This is an original first pressing from 1972. The gatefold, it actually came out this way. And I got the postcards framed away. I mean, this is just a great album. It's unique in the Stones canon. It's their only studio album that was a double. Forget about the CD age. Originally, and it takes you on a journey. It's. I understand why Mick Jagger thought it was not so great at first, and it did not get great reviews when it first came out because it's not an immediate album. Stones came off of singles like Jumpin' Jack Flash, Honky Tonk Woman, Brown Sugar from Sticky Fingers. From this album, the single, originally the opening single was Tumbling Dice, which of course is a classic Stones track. But from a single standpoint, it was nothing like those previous songs. It's a grower, and that's what this album is. And, side two, the acoustic side, Sweet Virginia, Torn and Frayed, Black Angel, Sweet Black Angel, and Loving Cup is incredible. There's so many deep tracks. Keith, of course, his famous track is Happy, but things like Let It Loose and Shine a Light is now becoming a famous song, but for me, that was always one of my favorites. Soul Survivor's got a great riff. It's just a phenomenal album. And like I said, it takes you on a journey. So individual songs, kind of strange in some cases, but when you listen to this as an album, it just is unbelievable. The Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street, my number one album from 1972. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you're still checking it out, hang out. I'll give you a couple more minutes, and I will show you up some other favorite albums from 72. We'll call them runner-ups, but these are all great albums. Here's a first pressing from Thick as a Brick, Jethro Tull. Funnily enough, their first number one album in America, which they followed up with Passion Play, which was another number one. There are only two number one albums in America. They're two most progressive albums. But look at this packaging. This is their first pressing, and you've heard about the newspaper. This is the original newspaper. I mean, it's an actual newspaper. They don't make them like this anymore. And this is an interesting listen. I love Jethro Tull. I got to do a full-length video on them because why they're not in the Hall of Fame is just a disgrace. But Jethro Tull's great because they're so different on all their different albums. It's like a different band. And that's progressive Jethro Tull at their best, thick as a brick. Some other runner-ups. The Allman Brothers kept going after the unfortunate passing of Duane Allman, and they put out this great album, Eat a Peach, which was a double vinyl album. It's just it's got some Duane Allman still on there. Just some great tracks, Dickie Betts' Blue Sky, and One Way Out, and Trouble No More, and Ain't Wasting Time No More, and Melissa, named my daughter Melissa. What a great record from the Allman Brothers. Big Star, and it was number one record. This is a compilation of the both albums, but that is just a classic album that was unknown at the time, but of course has grown tremendously in stature since then, and deservedly so. Deep Purple released their magnum opus, I guess you would say, from Mach 2 lineup, Machine Head. This is a great deluxe edition version of that album, but the tracks on this, of course, Smoke on the Water, but Highway Star. This is a monster album, hard rock, heavy metal, I guess at that time you would have called it. Here's another favorite of mine. I, like everybody else in the world, didn't get it back in 1972. I got it much later, but anybody who has gotten familiar with Nick Drake loves his three albums, and this is a great one as well. Pink Moon. Short, like 30-minute acoustic album. When you're in the mood, it's great. Great year for the Grateful Dead, which you'll see. Jerry Garcia released his first solo record, Garcia, and this album's got such great songs. Deal, and one of my favorites, a couple of my all-time favorite songs, Sugar Ray's on here, and The Wheel, which the Dead would perform. Great solo record from Jerry Garcia. These are great versions. They got on the CDs, a deluxe editions remastered. One of the great American bands of all time, totally should be in the Hall of Fame, the Jay Giles Band. This is one of the hottest, most exciting live albums you'll ever hear. It'll Blow Your Face Out, which was the name of their next live album. But there it is. First, I Look at the Purse, Homework, Hard Driving Man, Serves You Right to Suffer, Cruising for Love, and Looking for Love. This album is a monster live album, and it's live. So if you think the Jay Giles Band is Free Frame, well, check out that band. Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead released his first solo record that year, and it was great. It's called Ace, and it's basically a Grateful Dead album without Jerry Garcia. And you know a lot of these songs, Look Like Rain, Playing in the Band, Mexicali Blues, One More Night, Cassidy, Greatest Story Ever Told. That's all his first solo record. This is a killer album from Bob Weir, Ace. And speaking of the Grateful Dead, well, they released one of my favorite Grateful Dead albums that year. The album, the live one, Europe 72. Really cool because it's a live record, but it's mostly, songs that were never released before. So it's kind of like a live studio album. And look at the track listing on this album. Just absolutely fantastic. And thanks for the CD age, they remastered these things in HD CD, and they released a whole slew of bonus tracks. If you don't know the Grateful Dead, this is a great starting point. Europe 72, one of the great Grateful Dead albums. Elton John released a great album that year, Honky Chateau. A couple of great songs on this. Mona Lisa's a Mad Hatter's an all-time favorite, and Rocket Man, of course. Think I'm Gonna Kill Myself. Never been a huge fan of Honky Cat, but what can I tell you? One of the great progressive rock bands of all time, one of my favorites. One day I'll do a video on them, Nectar. And they released A Tab in the Ocean. I have tons of different versions of their albums because they get re-released. And this is a deluxe edition that's got two mixes of the album. The original UK mix and the US mix, plus an official bootleg release of a live show. But this album, if you like progressive rock and Nectar, this is a great album. A Tab in the Ocean, Crying in the Dark, King of Twilight, Desolation Valley. Great stuff, and one of my favorite Nectar albums. Let's keep going. Graham Parsons, well, I got it in this box set, but he released his solo record, GP. And that first one right there, Still Feeling Blue, amazing country rock that he kind of was helping to invent at that time after the Flying Burrito Buds. Great album, GP. I'm going to do two more. Lou Reed released his classic Transformer album. Love this album. Of course, everybody knows Walk on the Wild Side. But Perfect Day, which has become a really famous song now, and it deserves it because it's one of the greatest songs of all time. Perfect Day is a must listen. But this is a really great album. Satellite of Love, Vicious, great stuff. Lou Reed, Transformer. And the last one I'm going to mention is this great double album opus from Todd Rundgren, Something Anything. Really cool record. It was a double vinyl. The first three sides was all Todd because he plays all the instruments. So you know a lot of these tracks. I saw the live. It wouldn't have made any difference. It's amazing, amazing tracks. Great stuff. Side 3, Black Mariah, Couldn't I Just Tell You? These are all classics. But I always loved Side 4, which was with a full band, and it sounds like it was recorded live with the band, not with an audience, but they played together. And you got things like You Left Me Sore and Slut, SLUT, just You May Be a Slut, but You Look Good to Me. And of course, he recut Hello, It's Me, which was the big smash. This is a great, probably the most famous Todd Rundgren album, and probably my favorite one from him as well. So, hope you found this fun. Brings back memories from 50 years ago, and boy, was the quality of music great. I mean, this stuff hasn't dated at all. And there's still another 80-plus albums I got from 72 that are also great. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please check out other ones. If you haven't subscribed, please hit subscribe. Please tell your friends. And most importantly, check out some of this music if you're not familiar with it, because you'll be happy you did. Have a great one. Take care.